Happy Sunday, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. So many of you already on. I was going to go in and try and fix the description on my live today because it says free loss instead of free lesson. Hello. So I will go fix that later. I was afraid it wouldn't go live if I tried to mess with anything beforehand. So let me see who's joining us. Hi, Vanessa and Jackie and Robin and Helen and Karen. Ooh, lots of people from Canada joining today. Joanne in Jersey. Yeah, drop me a line and let me know where you guys are viewing from. And how's your weather there? I am in middle Georgia, smack dab right in the middle of the state. And it's gorgeous here today. Beautiful, almost summery weather. So this is our project for today. And I love dogwood. Like I said, I live in Georgia and they are blooming like crazy. It's just such a beautiful, pretty flower. And I did dogwood on glass. If you've not checked that out, I should have grabbed those. But they are over on the DecoArt page on Facebook. And I showed you how easy and simple it was to paint dogwood on glass. And so I was racking my brain, what should I paint? What should I paint? And I asked my friend Tracy Moreau, I said, okay, I need to do a live on Sunday. What should I do? And she said, dogwood. And I thought, that's perfect. I'm going to do that. Hi, Linda. Hi, Denise. Hi, Robin Richer and Bev. Dogwood are beautiful. I totally agree. So many. I'm just going to stop scrolling because we could be here all day and I'll just say y'all's name and and keep talking and chatting with you guys. But in order to get through this lesson, I do want to concentrate on this. Hi, Carol Henry. Hi, Lynn from Delaware. I have family in Delaware, actually. So I'm going to try and focus on this. So like I said, I did have my first Moderna vaccine on Friday, and I've been fine other than Friday. My arm hurt and I was very tired. But then I slept like 9 hours straight and woke up refreshed, ready to go. And today has been a crazy day getting ready we have bathroom remodels starting tomorrow in our house. So let me move this aside real quick. And let's go ahead and tackle our giveaways from last live where I did my Bless Our Nest. And thank you so much for all that bought that e-packet. I greatly appreciate it. And I've seen some beautiful projects that you guys have shared. So this is how you enter my giveaways. Like, comment, and share. Make sure you share to a place where you know you can share. Some of the groups don't like to be shared to, so try not to share to groups that don't like solicitation from other other areas. I'm just gonna leave it at that. So don't want you guys to get in trouble. But anyway, that's how you enter my giveaways. So this one was for the Farmers Market stencil. This is a Studio R12 stencil, studior12.com, Patty Rollinson, amazing. This was on my Farmers Market tulips. So the winner of that and this DecoArt stencil is Karen Jones. So if you will message me and let me know your mailing address, I will get that mailed to you. Put that to the side. And then I had for the this is a stamp that I created. So it comes with the stamp, the surface, a stencil, and instructions, and that goes to Patricia Baxter. So again, if you will message me and let me know your mailing address, I will get that mailed off to you. And then finally, I had a 3-piece angle brush set from my friends at my favorite brush company, Dynasty Brush, and the winner of those, which is a 1/2 inch, a 3 angle, and a 1/4 angle, is Janet Benoit. Hopefully I said that right. Love that, Benoit. It's French. Anyway, so message me your information and I will get these off to you. And then of course we have giveaways for today. And I have, let me get these over here. I have 3 giveaways. The first one is for one of my favorite creators, Tim Holtz. So there's a 3-piece stencil set. These are Stampers Anonymous, Tim Holtz. Again, just leave a comment, share, like. So someone will win those. And then again, my friends at Dynasty, always supportive and great. I have a 4-piece brush set for the second giveaway, and that is for the 1-inch encaustic wax brush, which if you watch my friend Tracy Moreau, she's all about this brush that she calls the fugly brush. And we're going to use it today. And that's in there, a number 12 shader, which is similar to a number 12 flat, a number 8, and a liner. Okay, so my favorite black gold Dynasty brushes. And then my final giveaway, I have to tell you guys, for my friends at Stampendous who are incredible and amazing. This is a new slimline rubber stamp that they've come out with. You guys, these are absolutely incredible. I could go on for an hour just showing you these. So another giveaway is for these 2 stamps, which is these Andy Skinner kind of grunge and markings, and then this new slimline stamp that, oh my gosh, is incredible. So I had them on my website, and you guys completely cleaned me out. So I'm going to share with you where you can get them. You can find them. Deb Antonick has them available on Painting. Well, I put 2 I's in there, didn't I? paintingwithdeb.ca. She's in Canada, but I have to tell you guys the shipping, I think she said on one's like $7. So I'm not going to break the bank, and you can find them there. Okay. So, and there are several different designs like this rose. These are the ones that I got. Feather, postage stamps, and again, the one for the giveaway with Andy Skinner's is that one. Amazing, right? I'm going to leave that there for just a second to show you something. So again, comment, like, share to be entered to win. Now this one I want to show you guys real quick because I do have, and I'll be talking about it this month even more, because the end of this month I have a private membership group. It is a paid membership group. There will be a monthly option and then also a yearly option, but we create all the time monthly together. And I'm trying to find the page that I just created with this stamp. So I painted with my group on Friday, and this is one of the pages that we did. So I love creating in an art journal. It's just so much fun. And again, you can take this and create somewhere else. But just a few of the other pages that we've done in my group, that was just a background, showing them how to use stamps to create their own collage paper. Again, another background, different pages. I'm sure you guys saw this one. And so these are all pages that when I started my the Adventures of Art and Art Journaling in October, these are some pages that I've done with my group. We gather on our Facebook group 4 to 5 times a month. We have Zoom classes that are all included in your membership. Again, just background ideas using stamps, stencils. So much fun. I will be sharing lots of information on my Adventures of Art and Art Journaling. Membership opens on the 30th of April, and I would love to have you a part of that. It's a little bit more intentional creating with me, a little bit more one-on-one, small group attention and instruction from me. So again, let's move on to our dogwood. So, and I will share more on my page here about that later. So this piece, a little too much. Let me zoom out just a little. So thank you again so much for so many of you that got the e-packet. It is available on my website. If you'd like to do the step-by-step pictures, line drawing, and the supply list of what I use, you can get it on my website. But I hope you guys just sit back, enjoy, and watch me show you how I painted this piece. So the surface is a tavern sign from Lana Lamb, and I should have put her link, and I completely hosed that, but it's lanalamb.com. And so I got this there. Well, I thought I had two. I had one. So I had to prep the other side for it. But for this, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys on a different surface how I did the background, because I love this kind of weathered background. Let me move all that out of the way. Make a ton of noise. Okay, so I just have another sign here. I believe this is a CD wood that has just a bigger arch on it. I loved kind of how small this was, so that I could put it into the middle of a wreath if I wanted to, or just hang it on the inside of the door with a nice little ribbon. So what I did very first thing is sealed it with a little bit of DecoArt multi-purpose sealer. Just a nice coat, let it completely dry. And then, oh, excuse me, thank you so much, Deb, for putting Lana's, I forgot the thing, her website. Thank you for putting her website link in there for me. So yes, Donna Collins, that's where I got it. Deb put the link in there. It's lanalamb.com. Thank you, Myra. All right, so I base coated it with burnt sienna. So I'm just going to show you that first. I went ahead and put my sealer on, and I don't know why I didn't do this part before. So could have. I think because my sealer was drying. And again, as my husband and I were trying to get ready this afternoon for the contractors to show up to redo our bathroom, I just thankfully had most of this ready yesterday and completely forgot about base coating this. So you just get to watch me base coat. And again, I'm using the 1-inch encaustic brush. Don't care if you see any of the wood grain. Don't care if you see brush strokes. I'm just going to slap a nice thin little layer on here. Now, the reason I seal it, if you're not familiar with using a multi-purpose sealer, is it brings up the wood grain, especially like on an MDF board. So you want to, and it can make it a little furry on the MDF board. And so you want to make sure that you put some sort of a sealer, a glazing medium, something on there to let it be a barrier between the wood and your surface. All right, so now I'm going to hit that with my heat tool, because, you know, watching paint dry is not fun. I'm using this as a Ranger Heat It tool. Absolutely love this. We'll have it on my website soon. It's how much I love it. And again, all these instructions are in the e-packet. You want to make sure you're moving it around. You don't want to leave it in one area because it's definitely warm. I'm just going to kind of give that a... Okay, definitely a step I could have done beforehand and just forgot. All right. Now, the next thing I did was use my favorite color, which is Bahama Blue. Oh, I love this color. So we're going to use a little bit of Bahama Blue. Hi, Myra from Texas. Please post your membership group after. I definitely will, Anita. Again, membership isn't opening until the 30th of this month, but I will definitely share information throughout the next few weeks on that. And our last live that we're going to do here the end of the month is actually going to be on a journal page. So I'm going to get this wet, and I'm going to pick up some of the Bahama Blue. And I have to stand up. I need to move my chair because I am a stander when I paint. I don't know about y'all, but when I sit and paint, I just think it looks ugly. Okay, so I put some Bahama Blue on my brush. Just going to tap across a paper towel, and I'm just going to lightly go over this entire surface. And looking through the comments when I posted this the other day, so many of you said, you know, you love the background. And so I definitely wanted to show you how I did that. It's just another way to get an aged wood look. And I see a little bit of burnt sienna that's still a little wet there. Quite all right. Anything to make it look a little aged. Linda from Kennesaw up in North Georgia. Thanks for being here. My sons, two of my sons of our three visited that college to attend and ended up choosing a college in Milledgeville. All right. And then Georgia Tech. So we're just going to get that Bahama blue on there. I don't really like it this solid. I love the streak that I have going on here. So I will show you how to fix that if you get too much of that color in one area. All right, so I'm going to hit it with the heat tool. Rinse out my brush. That's great, Paula. I do carry the 1-inch encaustic brushes on my website, but you can always get them from, let me see if I have that on here, somewhere. Somewhere I have it, right there. You can order from the Brush Guys. Just look on the Dynasty logo, and I have a promo code, SandyMC, all lowercase, and you'll get an additional discount. So, all right, so that's nice and dry. Let me get that off there. And then I used some warm white. I kind of wanted to tone this down just a little bit more. So look how soft that background is compared to this. So I came back in with my 1-inch encaustic oval. And again, it's wet. Loading in some warm white. And I'm just going to go right over that. Love the streaks, and that's one thing that this bristle brush, this is a natural hair bristle brush that's going to make those streaks for you. And one tip to keep it from getting too solid is to swipe it across your paper towel. That's just where I had too much water in my brush, and it just got a little bit too concentrated there. Okay. Then I'm going to take a paper towel, and I'm just going to softly wipe. Well, actually, I'm using a little bit of pressure because I have a lot of white on there. Okay, now see where I had that wet brown, how it got a little solid there. So now I'm going to come back in with some asphaltum. Come back in with my 1-inch encaustic. Going to pick up a little bit of asphaltum, swipe it across my paper towel, and just from the edges. This just adds a little bit of a warmth. You have that brown from the burnt sienna, which I love. But this asphaltum just kind of subdues that just a little bit. So I have it just coming here and there, but not everywhere. Okay, so that's our background. Little bit of aged weather wood look. Again, if you get an area where you have it too much, you can always just backtrack. I could come in if I want to add a little bit more of the Bahama blue, or come back in and tone that down with a little bit of the warm white. Okay, just remember, it's aged, not perfect at all. All right. Let's see, my grandson goes to Kennesaw College. Oh, awesome. Oh, East Tennessee. I'm from Memphis, so the other side of the state. Looks easier than I thought to do the background. I mean, right, Carol? I mean, super easy to do that background. So since I only had one surface, I'm going to clean this mess up because it's aggravating. And wash out my brush. And I'm just on a silicone mat. I just got this off Amazon. Great little hand sanitizer, which all of us have, right? But it's great for a palette and also easy cleanup. So I'm just going to clean up that paint. It's a little distracting, especially the color. Okay, if you know what I mean. Alrighty. There we go. I'll just dry that up. So when I did my original, okay, and then realized that I only have one of these surfaces, I went ahead and base coated the back. And a great tip if you're going to use both sides of a surface. So what I did was I took blue painter's tape and I put it all the way across this entire surface, which had been sealed. I sealed it with So Soft varnish, okay? If you're going to put this on your door, you can also use Duraclear soft touch varnish. And I think these are available at Hobby Lobby, Michael's, hopefully. But the Duraclear is just a great, and the soft touch to me just gives it a nice little finish. But that kept the paint off of my background, okay? So, did my background, transferred on my pattern, and let me just go through the colors of what I base coated with, all right? I'm gonna pull my chair back up, go through with you guys what I base coated this with. So transferred on my pattern, and then I painted the branches in with, and this label has seen better days, but it's asphaltum and a touch of black. All right. So Donna Pulse, the mat that I'm on is a silicone baking mat. If you put that into Amazon, and I did extra large, I originally asked for white, but it came gray, and that's totally fine. I love the gray actually. So large silicone, and I think this is like a 24 by 19, something like that. Anyway, so colors are like sky and sand, perfect. Oh, yes, Karen, that's, yes, totally, right? And again, on my finished piece, you know, I have a little bit more brown up here. And on my piece I'm doing right now is a little more blue, and I love that. Every time you do this, it's gonna be a little bit different, all right? So back to my branches. Asphaltum, lamp black, okay? And I did one coat, let it completely dry, and then I came in with a second coat. My flowers, plantation pine, and a little touch of lamp black, because I wanted those nice and rich and dark. And I did 2 coats of paint on that. Let it completely dry in between. And then for my flowers, I used warm white. So I love warm white. I have to tell you, I don't use it enough, but used it on these flowers and loved the way it looked. And again, did a layer, let it dry, came back and did a second coat. Okay. Now, I didn't do my lettering because I thought we would do that together. But one thing I wanted to do to let this kind of stand out a little bit more is to shade. And I started to float colors on, and I thought, well, I need to wait so that we can do that together. So let me move my palette of the background color and get into, so my preferred paint, for shading and everything else is the DecoArt Media line, which is very hard to come by these days, but you can find some of it here and there. You can find some of it at the link I just showed there from Maureen Baker. And then also Chris Hoy has some, as does DecoArt. So I know my friend Robin Storm just got her order in, but you can find some at DecoArt. Now I know this color is unavailable, So not to tease you or anything, but if you don't have this, you can use another Payne's Gray, a soft black, even lamp black. You just want to use it a little sparingly because it can be a little dark, okay? So I'm going to use the Payne's Gray. Press and seal. Yes, Linda Morgan, press and seal works great. I've done that as well. I just had on the ends, sometimes you get a little bit of seepage. So I thought, I'm just going to try the blue painter's tape, and it worked like a dream. You can hang that from a chain and show both sides. Absolutely, Robin. Perfect. Perfect idea. Hi, Susan, up in New York. Good to see you on. All right, so I'm going to use a 3/4 flat and just show you how I added some of this shading around the letters. I started on a couple of other things, and I'm also going to show you some major ways to fix some things if you mess them up, because I had to fix a couple things. So I'm going to take my angle brush. This one is a little, sometimes they get, because I'm really bad and leave them in the water sometimes, but if it gets loose, you can just give it a nice little twist. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to load the toe only, and let me move this over for many that aren't familiar with an angle brush. So it has a toe and a heel. You've got that longer end and shorter end. Fantastic brush. And I'm going to pick up just a little bit of paint on the toe. It's slightly damp. Okay, I want this color to kind of softly migrate in my brush, and then I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. I find pressing it here and then working it on the other side works better than doing kind of like a double load, because it tends to migrate a little bit more. So to have better control, and then I'm just going to kind of walk it to the right. So to make these letters stand out a little bit more, to the right and underneath, I floated some Payne's Gray. Notice how I'm tapping. I'm tapping that brush instead of just pulling one long stroke. So I'm going to intensify this just a little bit. And it's best to do this step when the letters haven't been painted yet, because of course then you can fix anything that goes over the letter. Like I did here, no big deal. Totally fine. Okay. And then I'll intensify that. And you can go under flowers and leaves. I'm going to show you at the end some drop shadows, but in a couple of places, just to kind of give you an idea, you know, you can lay that color right up underneath. Well, that didn't show up, did it? And what this does is it will help separate this background for you from the pieces that you're painting. Right? Just kind of lifts it, separates it a little bit from the background. So, could paint goodbye on reverse side. Too cute, Janet. Yes, Janet Mills, I think that would be a great idea. Okay, so the other thing is I came back in with this Payne's Gray, and I wanted to separate these flowers a little bit more. So by just doing a little bit of a float right between those petals. Let me zoom in just a little. I don't want to have to zoom in and zoom out too much since there's clusters everywhere. But you want to see which petal is laying over, and which is another tip let me give you guys. When you're painting your petals, go with your base coat in the shape of that petal, because your brush strokes are going to help you keep that line drawing. You can still see my line drawing a little bit under some of those flowers, but I can see that that paint goes right over that petal there, okay? So that's where I would come in and do a little bit of a float to separate those, okay? And I'm just going right past it, right onto that stem branch right here, right onto those petals. So I'm gonna do that quickly for each of these little areas. And if I get it into the background, just take my finger and kind of soften it out. Just like that. Okay, where you have petals that meet, you also want to separate those. And I tend to use my fingers more than I pick up my mop brush. But if you need to, you can always come in and just soften that a little with a mop brush, which is just a nice, fluffy, almost think of it like a blush brush. Just nice and soft, and you just lightly either tap it or swipe it. But tapping works best for me. So a little bit more paint on that toe. And if it starts to get too dark, you need to add a little bit more moisture to your brush and then walk that over to the right. Okay, so you can just reduce the intensity of the color that you see here over just a little bit. And if you're unsure, it doesn't hurt for you just to take a white piece of paper and brush over it to see if it's dark enough. It's always easier to add more. It's much more difficult to take off a heavy float of color. Okay, so I'm gonna come right in the base there. And just separate these petals a little bit more. And notice how I'm going right past the petal. Again, if you're using the media line, these colors are transparent. So it's just going to give you a very soft shading on the background. And of course, it's going to show up more where it's white. Every time you say lift and separate when doing shadows, I think of Brussels. Too funny, Barb Schwabel. Very, very funny. Okay. So nothing intense, just that soft float of color. Do that one. Float that color on. Now see, this petal is over, so I do want to come here. And I'm using the Payne's Gray. I will come back and add a little bit of asphaltum here and there. But one of the reasons that I didn't use it for this part was because when I started using the asphaltum to begin with, it looked like the flowers are a little dirty. They were a little too brown for me. So this gray tone is perfect. This Payne's Gray is perfect for giving you that shadow between the petals and where two flowers meet. So hopefully you guys can see that. If you need me to scroll in and zoom in just a little bit more, let me know. I am very interested in the background. Oh, thank you so much, Tina. Yes, well, again, in the very beginning, I showed you how to do the background, so you can go back and watch it over and over and over again. So quick and easy, I think super simple background to do with just a few little steps and very few colors. Okay, so where else? I've got it there, just a little bit there. Just kind of soften that with your finger. Try and keep my hand out of the way. Where it meets there. And notice how it's a little harsh. So I'm going to take my mop brush and just kind of pat that, just to soften that out just a little bit. And the toe of the brush that has the color is what is right up next to what I'm casting a shadow from. So, or to separate. So this petal would go over, the toe is right next to that on this petal. Since that one is over, the toe would be on that one. Okay, I'm just going to carry that right over to that branch there. Oh, and I love the way these branches are painted. Can't wait to share that with you guys. So if you have questions, just leave them in the comments. I will go back and watch and answer as best I can. And I tried to talk my husband into being my sidekick today, and he was not having it. So, okay, that is looking a little weird right there. Okay, but notice how they're starting to come together. You're starting to see 4 petals instead of, you know, a big cluster of petals, very dark. So I'm just going to soften that. And they're basically the shape of a heart, 4 hearts. And I love the little dip that Dogwood have right at the top of the petals. and have a cool way to show you if you cover too much of that up, how to get it back and regain it. Okay, so I went over that just a little too heavy. So I'll come back in with some white paint. All right. So hopefully you're starting to see that those are all coming together. We'll separate that one. And I'm thinking that I've gotten them all. Let me just do a quick little look-see and see. A little looky-loo and see if I've gotten them all. Got that one a little too much. All right. And again, easier to come back and layer and add a little bit more shading if necessary than to try and get a whole bunch of that dark paint off right away. All right, so there we go with our dogwood. I used to cringe when a design had flowers or leaves, but with these lessons from Sandy and Tracy, all is, oh, thank you so much, Paula. You know, at the end of the day, it's just paint. And like there, where I touched obviously with some brown paint, we're gonna fix that later. Okay, so let's move on to our branches and our leaves. And again, I love, love, love the way that the leaves are done and the branches. We're gonna start, let me see, we'll start with the leaves first. So I'm gonna get some plantation pine, which is my favorite green. If you don't have this, you can use avocado, black green, evergreen. I thankfully found 3 bottles in my overflow studio the other day because I was running low. So old label, but no big deal. Same color. Okay, and I'm going to use a little bit of this Payne's Gray since I have it out, but if you, you can get out a little lamp black if you don't have Payne's Gray. And then I also need some citron green. Love this bright green color. I'm going to try and keep it in the shot where you can also see my palette and how I load my brush. Yes, Denise, using that mop brush again. If you don't have citron green, another great color that I just started using a lot of is the matcha green. This was new, I think either last year or the year before. Just a really pretty, bright green. So it's a little bit more subdued. I'd say it has probably a little bit more white to it. And this is warm white. That's what I want. I didn't want to go too bright just yet. So, and let me put these side by side. So this is the citron green, and I'll just put a little bit of matcha green there. So notice how this is a little bit more, almost like some light buttermilk or warm white's been added to it. It's just a little more subdued, but still a gorgeous color. All right, so I'm gonna show you a few of the leaves. Probably not gonna sit here and paint all of them, okay? Because we'll be here till like 6 o'clock, although I'd love to spend the entire day with you guys. I'm sure you have things to do. So let's concentrate on these right here. I'm gonna get a small flat brush, so either an 8 or a 6, probably a 6 is what I'm gonna do for those. Okay, so have my flat brush, again, got water in it, and I like to just run it through my index finger and middle finger just to, if you have water dripping down your fingers, you know you have way too much water in your brush, but you do want a little bit of moisture. All right, so I'm gonna work wet on wet and show you how I do this. I'm gonna pick up some plantation pine, a little touch of Payne's Gray or lamp black. I'm just gonna paint that in. Okay, wipe off my brush. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of plantation pine on the flat of my brush. And then on one corner only, I'm gonna pick up a little bit of citron green and a little bit of white. So I have plantation on the whole brush. And so the difference with a traditional double load, where you have one color on one corner and one color on the other, you get a blend in the middle, but still to me, sometimes you get too much of a divide. So I put plantation pine on the whole brush, And then on one corner, citron green and warm white. And that's going to give you a nice, soft double load. Well, there's 3 colors on there, but look to that. So I'm going to hold this up. The corner that has plantation pine is at the top, and I'm going to slide down towards the base of that leaf and do the other side. Let me turn this because I did that wrong. Okay, there. Oh, tiny little bug just rolled on my thing there. Okay, and pull down the other side. Now, I'm going to wipe off my brush because I don't want it to look very kind of fern-like, you know, those leaves, the fern leaves that are a little bit too separated. So I'm going to come back and just kind of separate and soften that just a little bit with my brush, and then slide in the center and pull that back on the branch, soften it with my finger. Okay? Now, let's do that again on the other 2. Plantation pine, the whole brush. Let me show you how little paint I have on my brush. It's not heavily loaded. Then one corner only, citron green. Just going to kind of soften that on my palette. Pick up a little bit of warm white. Soften that right on it. All right. And then, again, starting here, just softly bring that right from the edge. Might pick a little bit more paint up. I'm going to turn this, keep my hand out of the way. All right. Then I'm going to wipe off, well, before I wipe off my brush, I'm going to slide it right up here in the center, get a little bit of a stem, vein right to that branch, and then soften it with your finger. That softening with your finger is going to soften that green right into that branch. Now I'm going to wipe off my brush and then just lightly go over what I did. I did notice a second ago there was like an interruption in video, so hopefully everything is smooth and back on. Thank you, Bev. I think so too. Absolutely, Donna, you can use olive green. So whatever dark green you like. Cluster above C, should top blossom have shadow? Cluster above the C. Yes, you're right. There should be a shadow right there. Thank you so much, Karen. I will definitely add that. Catherine, lucky having dogwood right outside your window. Okay, so let's go back to this leaf. Again, plantation pine on the whole brush. Then one corner, little citron green. Touch of warm white on the same corner with the citron green. Corner that has plantation pine is at the top, and you're just going to slide. And now everything's kind of going at an angle. I'm following the shape of the leaf, and everything's going towards the base of the leaf, okay? Toward the center, towards the base. Then I'm going to flip this around, keep my hand out of the way. All right. And then I'm going to slide that vein right in the center. Soften it into the branch, wipe off my brush, and I'm just going to lightly brush right over what I did. And when I do that, notice how it softens the look and makes it look like they go together instead of being separated, especially right here. See where a little bit more of that paint came off my brush? I love that. All right. What you want to go for when you do this, and if you have that paint that does something like this, just let it happen. Go with it. Because then it's not cookie cutter. They're not all exactly the same, and I'm all about that in painting. Let's twirl that around and give you guys whiplash. Okay, so those are the leaves. Simple, easy, right? But we're going to take that another step, and I'm using, this is a 0 faux squirrel rigger. I do have these available now on my website. So Dynasty Brush, got hooked on them from that Tracy Moreau. So I've had them, never used them. And when she started using them and showing them, I'm like, oh my gosh, why have I not used those brushes? So I've used other faux squirrel brushes, but not the riggers. So it is similar to a liner, but with a rigger, you get a flatness to that brush, okay? But you can also use it like a liner. So I have a little water in my brush, and I'm going to pick up some of the citron green, little plantation pine, mix that together on my palette, as you can see there. Add a touch of warm white. I love that tip, not to make all the leaves cookie cutter. Absolutely. One of my favorite things to do is that they all look different. Great. Because you can look at a plant and you might have one that has a brown spot, or you might have one that has a little bit more light green in it. They don't all have to be exactly the same. So with that brush, I'm going to take it right along that edge and just do a nice little, very loose outline. And then I will take that from the center out, just to accentuate those sections. Okay, so can you see that? And then anywhere, like where it starts, I just brush that back right into that branch so that you don't have an obviously bright spot where you started. So again, loosely outline. Notice how I say loosely, because you don't have to go all the way to the edge. Right in the center, kind of come in with those little vein lines going out. Swipe it with your finger and just kind of soften it into that branch. Okay? You should have paint on your hands when you get done painting. Okay? It means you had some fun and you just played. So, vein down the center. I'm just pulling this very loose, almost like a little S stroke. Soften it with your finger. And that's how simple and easy your leaves are. Now, if you want to come back in and add some brightness, I'll show you that at the very end. I'll show you how you can come back in if you want to brighten up and intensify a highlight somewhere, which I do want to do, especially on this leaf. All right? But those are the leaves, all done exactly the same way. All right? Did you know about a rigger brush until watching you and Tracy? Another item to add to my wish list. Absolutely, Peg, right? So, all right, let's move on to the branches. And if you watched my Bless Our Nest project, I used an angle brush, which surprised so many of you guys. But I love the chisel edge on an angle brush, and it just allows for so many different techniques, not other than floating, you know, of course. But notice how I have some of that, what is that color? Burnt sienna. So I have some Bahama blue on my brush, and I'm just going to go over that to get rid of a little bit of that spot. Pick up a touch of warm white. Kind of take that away. Have a little bit of green on there too, but that's all right. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in so that we are on this section right here for the branch. Okay, and I'm going to use asphaltum, which you can't read it because, of course, the label's off. You surprised me with this leaves. Thank you, Isabel. I mean, I used to paint my leaves like this all the time, just coming in from that side. And I don't know, they just mimic dogwood leaves to me, the way that those are painted. So, all right. Thank you, Barbara. Okay, so marigold. Love this color. It's a great, true ochre is a little on the darker side. I love the brightness you get with a marigold. So marigold is also on my branches. Asphaltum, marigold, a little warm white, which we have, And I already have the lamp black on there, but I'll show you how to fix if you mess something up, which I did there. When I did my leaf, my brush fell and I got green right there. I don't care, it looks like a shadow, so I'm leaving it. Okay, need 60 stop. This is a painting lesson, you need 60. Okay, so we're gonna use our 3/8 angle. Get my brush a little wet. Is that a 3? Yep, that's a 3/8. Okay, so I'm gonna load my brush. So just like we did with the my Bless Our Nest design, the initial branch has asphaltum and some lamp black. Now I wanna load my brush with some asphaltum. I need a different brush. That one seems, I think I left some paint in it. So this one's softer. Asphaltum and a little bit of marigold, because this is too bright to go to our branch just yet. So asphaltum and marigold. Notice how I just, not mixing it down to one color, you can still see both colors right there on my palette. Oh, hi, Anne. So glad you're here. No worries. Okay, so I'm going to lead with the heel and follow with the toe. And I'm just going to tap and pull along the top edge of that branch. Okay, can you see that? Just making some texture. Let's zoom in just a touch more. It's making some texture, and I always love sharing where I learned things, guys, because, you know, this is such a great community and industry, and I painted a branch on a project with Trudy Beard, rest her beautiful soul. So talented, and she painted the branches. We were painting in oils, but I just remembered that texture that I loved, and so again, just tapping, and I'm working along the top and towards the middle. Now, we don't want a line, so I'm going to show you how to take care of that and get rid of that. But I'm going to work that way all the way up, a little in the center, top of that branch. Notice how I'm just tapping and slightly pulling. Okay, so we have, what do you have your paint on? This is a 3/8 angle, Donna. So a 3/8 angle. I have it on the whole brush, okay, but very little. So coming to my palette here, a little bit of marigold. Notice how I pull it away from the puddle, a little bit of asphaltum, a little bit of marigold. Work it in on both sides, maybe 2 strokes on each side of the brush, and you're ready to go. Hi, Diane. Okay. Now, I like that mixture of the two because the marigold is too bright on its own right away. Okay, so I'm going to wipe off the brush. You didn't wash it out, just wiped it off. I'm going to pick up just a little bit of marigold. And where I want it a little bit brighter, I'm going to tap that chisel edge. And let me find, I'm going to use your paper, Anita, where I wrote your name, first person that commented. So let's see if it probably won't show up on that. Oh, it kind of did. So it's a tap and a pull, a tap and a pull, a tap and a pull. So sometimes you'll get more of a line. Sometimes you just get a little stutter. And that's what we're going for. Anything that's going to make a little texture. All right. I totally agree, Molly Ann. Love this technique for making something look a little rustic. I mean, think of barnwood or barn doors or, you know, the side of a house that's wood. It's just a great way to get that. You could even do this in the background to get that weathered wood look. So again, this is just marigold, and I don't want it everywhere. I just want it in a few places. Oh my goodness gracious. It just said that my video was interrupted again. Must be lots of people on Facebook today. Okay, so again, just tap and pull. But see that texture that's starting to happen there? Oh, love that. All right, now I'm going to switch to a little marigold and off-white. So come back to my palette here, pull down a little bit of marigold, come up and pull down a little bit of this warm white. And if you get a little green, that's quite all right. And then where I want it the brightest, especially right in here, I'm going to tap and pull. And that's where I'm going to start because I know that I want it a little bit brighter here. So I'll start there, tap and pull. And if it's not moving for you, you can add the tiniest bit of moisture to your brush. So just maybe add a little bit of water on the tip. Oh, that's good to hear, Diane. Something keeps popping up on my computer here saying that the video was interrupted. So again, start where you want it the brightest. And then as I start to, pull that out and paint those tiny little strokes, just a tap and a pull, it will, the color will kind of dissipate. Okay, so you don't have as bright a color on there. Again, this is marigold and a touch of warm white, a little bit of moisture in my brush. And I say a little bit because if you have too much, your tap and pull will be a little more solid. Okay, and I'm going to do something on purpose to show you because I think one of the greatest lessons is to know how to fix something. So I'm just going to get it really bright and too solid, kind of like in there. Okay. So thank you. It's like watching it come to life. Oh, thank you, Kathy. Okay. So again, you don't want such a difference, like a defined line. So if you start to see, like I've done here, where it's a little very defined line and my color just runs together, just pick up a little bit of asphaltum. And you can come in and just add a few little strokes and it just breaks it up. Okay, if something's too bright, you can always backtrack and do a little bit of a wash. So I could come back in with some asphaltum and even do a little bit of wash on here. And again, just gives it a really nice look. So again, a little warm white, a little bit of marigold, and come down in and, oops, let's get a little bit more of that asphaltum since I didn't do this part of the branch yet. Asphaltum, marigold, kind of soften that out. Wow, and that branch got really, really big. And I think this will be a great place, you guys, for me to show you how to fix this. So let me turn it over real quick. Okay, so this is my finished one. And look how much space is in here. And this is where my brush fell when I was base coating it in. And so what happened is I have a big old branch right here. And I want to take away some of that space. All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of asphaltum. Actually, I'm going to take a little bit of my background color, which was burnt sienna. So let me just pick up a little bit of the burnt sienna, and I'm just using my 3/8 angle. And I'm going to slide some of this color in. Okay, right over that to take away some of this branch. It just got too big. Now, I could take hand sanitizer and a stiff brush and take away some of this as well, but it goes down too many layers. So I just went back to my burnt sienna. I'm going to dry that. Actually, I want it more right there. Dry that. All right. Linda, I'm not sure what SD21NK means. Forgot we are in a different time zone. Yes, Penny, I know we are, aren't we? Okay, so I put in the burnt sienna. Now I'm going to come back with a little bit of Bahama blue. Load that a little bit on that number 6 and swipe it across a paper towel. And I don't care about the branch right now. What I'm worried about and trying to get back is that background color. So notice how I'm just going right over it. Okay. You can, and very little paint, because it's easier for you to add additional layers, harder for you to take it. And I'm going the same direction that I put that background color on. Okay. I'm going to wipe off my brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of the warm white, work that in, swipe it across a paper towel. Soften that just a little. Remember, I took a paper towel and wiped that after I put the white on. So I'm just going to use my finger. Keep wiping too much of it off. Okay, so now I've kind of gotten that background. You have a troll asking people to type. Huh, well, let's see what we can do about that. I'm looking through the comments real quick. Robin, can you let me know the name? I'm not seeing it now. You have a spammer on here. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, I'm not seeing where the person is. So sorry, guys. I'm just looking real quick. Give me just a second. Not fun. This is where I need Renee to come in here. Oh, okay. Let me see. Give me just a second. See, the thing is, I'm not seeing that name. So they obviously have me blocked so that I can't see them. Looks like a response to my comment. All right, guys, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to get that off, but what I will do when I go through all the comments is I will delete those. So if you get a message from this person, just delete it. We have to have, people that ruin things like that. So I blocked them and reported them as spam. Thank you so much, Paula. All right, let's get back to the lesson here. So notice how it looks like my background now. Then I can come back in with my branch color. Yes, y'all just block any spammers. And again, they obviously have me blocked because I'm not seeing that name anywhere in the comments. But I will definitely block them from my page. Okay, so notice how I painted the branch. And then I'm going to wipe off my brush, pick up some plantation pine. Oops, I picked up some asphaltum. A little bit of black. And I'm just going to repaint these leaves. So that is a really cool tip to regain. And look how much better that looks. Yes, so please, if anyone asks you to leave a comment other than me, do not post what they're asking you to post or comment, and certainly don't open any messages from them. All right. Okay, so look how much better that looks where I fixed up that branch. Okay, looks very much like my original, which I love. Now let's get back to the branch real quick. So On the branch here, again, I had marigold and asphaltum, and then just marigold, a little marigold and warm white. Now, thank you so much, Donna. Was wondering what that was. We'll have to block. Yes, you guys block whoever that horrible person is on here creating havoc. All right, a little bit of warm white and very little. I still have the brush I did the background with, so I'm just going to use it. But I used my angle brush. And in the brightest areas, just very little soft taps of color. Okay, you can always soften it with your finger. But that's going to give your branch that nice highlight. Okay. Just little taps of color. Aggravating how people with technology. Thank you so much, Barbara. Use it for what they use it for instead of good. All right. Well, we're just going to have fun and paint, and I will go back and make sure that they are definitely blocked, and I appreciate you guys reporting it. Okay, so again, on these little branches that go to the leaves, I want to show you those. Same exact way, little asphaltum and marigold. And when I get to the leaf, I just swipe it, okay? Because there's not really a green or brown stem to the leaves. And let me show you. The branch kind of goes right to the leaf. And because I use my finger to swipe over the color, they kind of blend right into each other. All right. I don't know, Karen, if I knew, I would tell you, because again, like I said, they obviously have me blocked because I can't see their name. So asphaltum and marigold, a little bit of marigold, and then a little marigold and warm white, light little touches. Swipe it when you get to the leaf. But doesn't that look so much better, guys, where I fixed that? And it looks like it's part of the background. So it's a great way to kind of take that space back and not think, oh, I have to sand that off because it got too big. And it also took care of my green that I had where I dropped my brush. So thank you, Barbara. Okay, so I'm going to do something on purpose again to show you because I think that's important. If you get down too low, you can take, too much texture. Now all of a sudden my round branch is looking, thanks Diane for putting that in there. Obviously they have me blocked because I can't see them, which is weird because they can still comment. So notice how it went down too far, and it can take your branch from looking round to being flat. So I'm going to come back with a little bit of asphaltum, tiny touch of black, and again, just take some of that space back, especially right off that edge. Okay, now we have a round branch. All right, and I'm loving this brightness here from that warm white. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of that on my brush. Just tap it in a couple of areas. But all the branches are done exactly the same way. Okay. So there's our branch. Now let's move on to our dogwood. All right, so I'm going to do this cluster of 3 right here. And then we'll move on to lettering. Put your finger on the comments. Are white, you'll pop up to report a comment. Thank you, Paula, for putting that info. Okay, so someone told me I did miss a little shading right there. See if I had my sidekick here. He could be looking at that. I told him after I asked my husband to come on with me today, I said, I'm going to get you one day to do that. And he just kind of giggled. So y'all would love his accent. Okay, so there's my little shading around that. I have a little petal that goes right here. There's just many steps, as y'all know. I love the little details and layering color to sit here and do all the dogwood and all the leaves and all the branches because I want to cover all the steps. So if you have any area like here where my shading went over, you can always come back and repaint those petals. I'm just using the brush I had in my hand. All right, it's not the brush I used to do the petals. The other thing is I do need my own Renee. I know, Diane. Thank you, Donna. All right, thanks, Diane. Okay, so notice like here where I fixed my background, a little bit of color, I need to round that petal out just a bit. Just because you base coated it in doesn't mean you can't come back in and fix it a little bit. All right, I can still see my line drawing. So if you want to take that away, again, another little layer of paint. And this right here, I'll tell you guys when you paint this. Hi, Mary from Italy. So when you paint a heart, what I was finding as I draw with my paintbrush. So as I was drawing these out, I tended to, I'm going to go up here and show you the difference. I tended to do that very soft little dip, okay? I love on dogwood that divot that you have right at the top of that petal, okay? It's more of a divot than it is like rolling hill, okay? That one's a very, kind of heart-shaped. It doesn't come down enough. I love this shape. So again, if you have that, you can always come back in with your background color and do exactly what we did just a second ago. And you can take some of that space back. A little bit of Bahama blue. Okay, just like that. Super easy. Okay, let's go right back up here. Hi, Jessica. Maybe Tracy will rent out Renee. I know. We've got to figure out how to do that with the being in different countries. So there are some petals that I want to fix up where my shading got a little over. So I'm just going to come back in with my number 6, and this is warm white. And if you're just joining us, we obviously have some kind of a creeper on our page today asking you guys to put things in the comments or messaging you. Please do not do what they say and report and block them. All right. So this is just warm white, and I'm just going to repaint this cluster that I'm doing right here. I'm just going to soften that with my finger. I don't want to lose my shading, but especially around those edges where I need to regain. Okay. So again, a little bit more. Don't be afraid to use those fingers. Oh, got a little shading there I need to do. Those things start to show up when you look at it closer. Okay, so see how that just kind of lost its shape. So I'm just going to regain that. And this one's a little too dark. Just like that. All right, so let's get that little shadow in. I think sometimes putting those shadows in, like I showed you guys in the beginning, floating those in between the petals, it helps you start to see things clearer from the get-go. And when that happens, for me anyway, I find that it's easier to paint in the area that I'm painting. Okay, so I had there. because it makes a little bit more sense. Things are separated. Keep them separated. All right. And then obviously that got a little divot in it. Okay. So let's move on to, I'm going to go back to my rigger. A number 2 rigger will work. Let's see if I grabbed mine. Or a 0, doesn't matter. Number 2 or a 0. And I'm going to get that wet. I tried your way of splattering. It's great. Thank you so much, Mary. I love my way of splattering. And I have to tell you, there's no splattering on this project, which is kind of surprising. Yeah, I gotta keep them separated. I love that song, Michelle. Keep it separated. Okay, so we have our petals separated. I have my number 2 rigger. And I'm going to come in with a lid. It's wet. I'm going to tap it off on my paper towel. I'm going to pick up a little bit of quinacridone magenta. If you don't have this color, you can use berry cobbler, royal fuchsia, even cranberry wine, alizarin crimson. I love that reddish tone to, I've got my rigger and haven't used it yet, so you're very welcome, Linda. Thank you for no splattering. You're welcome, Susan. I love splatter, and I love the way it kind of softens. This project didn't need it, I don't think, so I didn't do it. All right, let's move on to, at the top, I'm going to take my rigger and a little, I don't know why I put that color out. That's berry cobbler. So the quinacridone magenta and a little bit of asphaltum, because this color that I see on Dogwood that I love, it's not on all of them. Sometimes you see a little green up in that area, but I love this little kind of divot here, and that ended up a little too brown. So I'm just going to softly bring that up. There. Okay. And I'm going to show you how to tone these down and fix them if you get them too much. Okay, little asphaltum, little quinacridone magenta or berry cobbler or alizarin crimson, and it's just that tiny little divot right there. Just mimicking that little shape. Okay, see where I just swiped it with my finger and smeared it. I'll show you how to fix that too. Okay, so a little bit more asphaltum, and let's go ahead and get. All right, I think that's all of them. Okay, thank you, Sandra. Kathy Williams. Makes you, it's never too late to splatter. It's not, but again, I thought this project just didn't need it. So, okay, so I'm going to leave those right now. All right. I think they need to dry. I'm going to rinse my brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of Payne's Gray. Again, if you don't have Payne's Gray, you can use Payne's Gray in regular acrylic, soft black, even a little bit of lamp black if you have it, but you want to use it sparingly. Okay. And for this, you want to follow the shape of the petals. So I'm going to start in the center, and I'm very lightly, I have a very loose grip on my brush. If you're holding it really tight, you're going to make very strong lines. Loosen up on your brush, and I want to mimic the shape of that petal. So I don't want to do straight lines. I want to flow and follow the shape of that petal to give nice little, very subtle, too bright, just wipe it away. Little lines. Okay, I'm going to touch that, lift that up just a little bit. Okay. So, notice I have reloaded every single time. You might not need it. little bit more. Oops. When your brush starts to separate, you know that you don't have any moisture or paint in that brush with these riggers. Okay, so see how you're getting that? If they're a little too dark, don't worry about it. Keep going. Add a little more water to your brush to soften that paint, but I'll show you how you can tone those down if you get them too dark. I'm trying to do this without my hand getting in the way, which might be a little tricky. Okay, so we've got our 3 flowers there. So Pilar, I'm using Payne's Gray for those little lines. Okay, you can also use, if you don't have that, you can use regular Payne's Gray. I find this one to be a little more blue than this one, or you can also use a little bit of lamp black. Okay, sparingly. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in with my number 6 flat. I have water in my brush. I'm going to pick up a touch of warm white. And I don't know if this is in my directions, of course, because, you know, I might not have done it when I did my original. Like these might have been too bright, or my lines, you know, if they weren't too dark, I didn't do this step. So that's why I'm showing you right now that a little wash of warm white right over that will help tone that down just a little if need be. Okay, and it's easier to start with a very light wash, just a touch of moisture in your brush, a little bit of water. And remember, I did want to show you how I fixed that, so I'll come back in with some warm white, just soften that out. So water in my brush, just a touch, some warm white. Kind of soften that out. A little wash of that warm white. Okay. Now, to make that stand out a little more, and you're very welcome, Pilar, to kind of accentuate those divots a little bit more, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch angle. And on the toe only, I'm going to pick up a little bit of asphaltum. Okay, so asphaltum, which again, you can't see, but that's the number, DA 180, asphaltum. It stuck to something in my label, ripped. Okay, so with the toe with a little bit of asphaltum, well, I wiped off too much. I'm going to float a little bit of color under there. Okay, see how that kind of accentuates? Instead of it looking like a line, you get a little bit more of that divot look. And just taking the heel to clean that up just a little. Again, just kind of soften it on those edges if you need to. Doesn't that make a huge difference? No volume, my power supply went bad. Had to find another way. We'll have to, no problem, Linda Safranco. Glad you're here. And yep, it will be available here and also on my YouTube channel. So again, it takes it from just being that little line to looking like it divots in the top of that petal. Okay, love that. Okay. And I'll show you how to clean up the edges and everything too. So don't worry about, you know, like I have very harsh line right there still and it's aggravating, but I'm going to move on and leave it for right now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with some Payne's Gray on the toe of my angle brush. Okay, so a little bit of Payne's Gray. Oops, loaded it on the heel. Let's load it on the toe, Sandy. And you could use a little asphaltum. I just didn't want this to turn too brown. Okay, now at the base of each of these petals, well, that doesn't show up, does it? I'm gonna move that. Actually, I'm gonna add a little asphaltum. See if that'll show up a bit better for you. Okay, so the toe is facing the center, and at the base of each petal, I'm just going to basically shade. Toe is facing toward the center at the base of each of these petals to create my flower center. Okay, so a little Payne's Gray, a little asphaltum. Little Payne's Gray. Bye, Molly Ann. Enjoy your lunch. And a little asphaltum. On the toe only, working that in. And at the base, see how I'm just kind of shimmying it back and forth to create that center. Okay, asphaltum and Payne's Gray on the toe. Oh, thank you, Brenda. And hopefully it's clear enough for you to see. See, when I started out with just the Payne's Gray, it's just a little too intense. So I added some of the asphaltum. I don't know if I did that on my original. It looks like I did. Okay, and you're just going to kind of if you get too much, you can just kind of soften that out. You could use a mop brush. Oops, went right into my paint. You know, you can kind of soften it at the top if you get too much. Or use your finger. So asphaltum, Payne's Gray on the toe of the angle brush. Little zigzag motion. I have a little bit of moisture in my brush, not much, but it is definitely helping carry that paint. So if it's not moving, you might need to add a tiny touch of water. Do you have a substitute for asphaltum? Donna, you can use, you could use burnt umber. If I were using the media line, I would use raw umber. But on these, I've really tried really hard to limit my media usage because I know it's hard to come by. I'm not a big fan of the dullness of a burnt umber, but it definitely will work if you don't have asphaltum. I did see on Tracy's live yesterday, someone said they ordered 3 bottles of it from DecoArt. So you might be able to find it on decoart.com. Okay, so I'm liking see how this one's a little subdued. I'm going to come back in and intensify these just a little bit. And it's going to look a little strange until we get that center in. You're very welcome, Donna. I'll try and keep my hand out of the way. And I did find that when I painted some of my dogwood, I did this step for all of them. Then I put in the center, and then some of my shading went away. Simple fix. You just come back in around the center and do exactly what we did there. Okay. Thank you, Karen. All right. Oh, I'm so sorry. Whoever said Lynn. Again, don't open anything from whoever the spammer is. I'm not seeing them. So they obviously have me not seeing them on purpose, which is not very nice. All right. Oh, that's good to know. So Jessica said she found the asphaltum in the black, because they have them separated by colors, which I personally don't like, but it's under where they have the black colors. Okay. All right. So now we have our shading in around the centers. I am going to come in with my rigger. Doesn't matter 0 or 2, with some of the warm white. And I have a little bit of water in my brush. I'm going to make a little inky consistency. And I'm going to come around some of these petals. So I'll start up here and I'm just going to accentuate those a little more. See how that one just stood out? Now, I don't want it to look like it's outlined. So if I do that and I feel like it is, all I have to do is come back with that brush and pull just a little bit from the edge. Okay? So I'm going to paint at least one side of those petals, wipe off my brush if I have too much paint, and just soften that right from the edge. I want to leave a little bit of that outline, but I don't want to, I don't want it to look like it's outlined. So if you start here, you end up with too thick of a line. So it's always best to start here. Okay. And then again here, this is where I'm going to take care of that little line that I'm not loving, right there. And then I'm just going to pull it right over. Pull that down. And I have such little paint, again, it's inky, that it's just going to blend right into that petal. But that's going to help separate those a little bit more, I think. A little bit more of that warm white. And I think white on here just would have been too harsh. So that warm white, oh, that's ugly. That warm white was perfect. I thought about using light buttermilk, but that's a little too tan. So, and then aren't there pink dogwood as well? Of course, we have so many flowers here in the South. If you are into golf and you watch the Masters, all the azaleas there are gorgeous. And I just said to my husband last night, I was like, okay, we've lived here since 2005, and I can't believe we have not planted one azalea. So we are going to do that because they're gorgeous and they're in full bloom down here in all of our neighborhood. Okay, again, I don't want to start at the base. I want to start at the tip. Bring that in. And notice how I'm just kind of softening that right into the center. Okay. So Donna, this is called a rigger. So this is a number 2. It is like a liner brush, but what's different about this is that you can use it flat. It goes to a nice flat. And when we do our lettering, you'll see why this is important to use this brush. Again, Tracy Moreau totally hooked me on these. It's a Dynasty Faux Squirrel. This is a number 2 rigger. I do have these on my website. And I don't know, it's become my new favorite brush. This one and the Fugly brush. All right, so I'm going to come right up here. Soften that. Don't really need one there. You know, like here, it'd be too obvious if I tried to outline, you know, part of the petal. Could do a little there, but then wipe it because it's going to have a little shadow. That will separate that petal a little more. Alrighty. So again, just think it really adds to that separating the petals. And again, a little bit of a flip in here, which I'll show you. I always paint the original better than when I paint it again. But notice how you can see them separated. All right. And we're going to wash other colors on here. I love the pinks and the greens. And even a little bit of asphaltum here and there. So, of course, all those layers to get to the final thing. Yes, Chris, I love them too. I'm surprised Dogwood is not Tennessee state tree. I agree, Denise, because I mean they're all over Tennessee. All right, now for the center, you can use that number 2 rigger, and I'm going to pick up plantation pine and a little bit of black. Okay, right on my brush, and this is how simple the center is. Dot, 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 random, inside, and beyond where we did that shading. Okay, you don't want to draw a circle because you're going to see an obvious circle. So you want to dot, 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 dot. I'm letting some dots go out further, and I'll hold this up in a second to show you. You'll be able to see that. Randomly dot, 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 dot. It works better when you say dot, 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 dot. Oops, too much green there. And funny enough, too much black there. So I'm just going over to mix those colors just a little bit better. Okay, so notice how random, again, not a straight circle. You see those tiny little dots, and right now they're just a hodgepodge of color. Okay, so I'm going to hit those with the heat tool. Again, with that heat tool, you want to move it around. You don't want to sit on one area. Sometimes what that does too is it dries the top layer, doesn't dry everything else. So you want to be careful to kind of let it evenly dry. And when I'm working at home and designing and painting, I just move somewhere else. So, an assembly line. So, you know, I do all the same thing to the petals, and then I'll come back and add the centers in. And by the time I get back to my original ones that I started with, they're dry. All right, so now with the rigger, I'm going to rinse that out. I'm going to pick up some plantation pine and some citron green. Slightly mix that on my palette. And I say slightly because I'm not mixing it to one color. So I have some plantation pine, some citron green, and I'm going to pick up, which I just did a no-no. Go to the side of your warm white, pick up a little bit of that. Okay, now this is going to be quick and simple and easy and make all of a sudden it look like tiny little pods in the center of your flower. So all you're going to do is every now dot, and sometimes you're going to pull a little line. Not too many. Okay, there's your center. Plantation pine, citron green, tiny touch of warm white. And you're going to dot. I'm going to do something on purpose to show you. Okay, now notice I have 3 dots in a row. You want to put one above if you have a line, because of course we want it to be very haphazard. Thank you, Lorna. Okay, so dot, and I'm leaving that dark space. If you take away the dark space, this is going to happen. It's just going to look like a big blob. Okay, see the difference? And I'm liking this one more than this one. So I can come back in with just some citron green and a touch of white, and I can brighten some of these, not all of them. Okay, so notice the difference. And this one, the fix for this is to go back to your plantation pine and a touch of black. Too much paint there. And just pop some of those darker sections, dots, right back in. Okay, let that set and dry. and then come back in with your plantation pine, citron green, tiny touch of white. I'm using warm white, and just do random few dots. Okay, just like that. All righty. So, again, I think my shading held up well around the center. That helps kind of also create the size of your center as I shaded that color in. I wanted there to be a little bit of green and also a little bit of the pink. So just for there to be a little bit of harmony with those flowers and the tips of those petals. So I'm using a small mezzaluna brush. You can use whatever stiff bristle brush you have that you can dry brush with, whatever your go-to is. Mine are the mezzaluna brushes. Okay, I like the stiffness of the bristle, but it's also soft enough to not wreck my piece. All right, so I'm going to add a tiny touch of citron green. I'm going to bring my palette up here so you can see what I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to work that in. Bye, Donna. Thank you so much for being here. Scammer's back. Oh, sorry about that, Renee. Thanks for letting me know. Y'all just block them, and thank you, Janet. So again, roll that brush around, citron green, and then I'm going to take a paper towel, and I want to wipe most of it off because I don't want this everywhere, but I just want to add it in, and I'm going to dry brush, probably wipe too much of it off as I was looking at my screen. Okay, you want to add it in here and there. Okay, so see that tiny little hint of color, and it might be different than where I have it on my original because I'm just looking at this piece since the original is on the back. But just, you know, on a couple of the petals here and there, and I would do green on all your dogwood where you want it. And then if you have another mezzaluna brush, you can use it, or you can take this one. I'll just wipe that off. Doing a little green right here. You can take hand sanitizer. Thank you so much, Robin. Okay, so little hand sanitizer. Get that paint out. Wipe it off your brush. The hand sanitizer is going to evaporate in just a minute. And this is another, I just roll it around in my hand. If I feel moisture, I need to wipe it off again with a paper towel. I don't know, Karen, maybe, but like I said, I definitely will block them. Maybe that will be my way to get my husband to be my co-pilot. All right, now I want to add a little bit of that pink. So a little quinacridone magenta. Again, work that into your brush. Wipe most of it off. And just add a very subtle tint of that color here and there. Now, notice how I'm very haphazardly, not in a circle, or it's kind of up and down and all around, because I want it to not form a pattern, just to get a tint of that pink in. Hi, Yvonne. Thank you very much, Linda. Joining late. Hi, Pat. Again, once you do that step, if you feel like, oh, it's a little too bright, all you have to do is come back with some of your warm white, do a soft little wash, and that color is going to shine right through. You're still going to be able to see it. Okay. So, and then intensifying any of our shadows where you need in between those petals, definitely right here. I would want to come in and shade a little bit with maybe even some, goodness, Sandy, I just dropped my brush in pink paint with a little bit of asphaltum. Thank you, Robin. I appreciate that. Yes, send that to me. You can private message it to me. Okay, so a little asphaltum or a little Payne's Gray, whichever you choose. Both will do the work. I think sometimes the asphaltum makes that flower look a little dirty. So I'm gonna wipe that up. Use a little bit of Payne's Gray instead, which is what I used on my original. Okay, so strengthening up those shading bits here and there. Now I'm going to come right, I'm going to zoom out a little. You probably won't be able to see everywhere, but I'll try and hold up the camera. Thank you, Denise. So do I. I think it just totally makes it, those little tints of color here and there. Thank you, Robin. Okay, so drop shadows, cast shadows. I did this with my group the other day and kind of went into more in depth about cast shadows versus just shading. Okay, so floating color, if I float that color right up underneath that branch, of course it's going to separate that from the background. See right there? But if you come away from what it is that you're casting a shadow from, like I did on the branch here, it lifts it even more. Okay, so my favorite way to add cast shadows is with a flat brush. And where did my brush go? So I'm going to use a number 6 flat. I hate the COVID-19, but love how the teachers have adapted. Thank you, Bonnie. I totally agree. I'm ready to travel, but this is the next best thing. Okay, so my number 6 has water in it. I'm going to pick up a tiny touch of Payne's Gray. Now, if you're unsure before you start, touch a piece of paper. If it's too dark, let me show you the difference. Okay, that's too dark. That's needs a little bit more kick, a little bit more color. So I'm going to add a touch of that. And where I'm going to put these, oops, that's my finished one. Let's turn it over. Is right here. So I'm just going to slide that right in. Okay, you probably can't see that on camera, so let's beef that up just a little bit more. So I'm away from what it is that I'm casting a shadow, which is that branch, and then I'll come to it. Okay, well, that a little too far. Okay, now the other thing is I don't want to add a cast shadow for everything. Then it starts to look to me a little manufactured. Okay, just like I was talking about having all the leaves look exactly the same way. Thank you, Sandra. I can't tell you, Cavalier, that means the world to me. I love to teach. So again, just that little touch. Some comes closer to the branch. On leaves, it's my favorite. And I'm going to do this a little on the dark side. We'll come right up here. And cast that shadow there. Hopefully that's showing up. And then follow the leaf. You can follow that leaf and then let the tip come out right there. Okay, see how that just makes it look like the light is hitting from here, it's hitting the branch, it's casting a shadow onto your piece. Okay. Again, don't be afraid to use your fingers to soften that out. Let's intensify that a little more. All right, guys, so we've done our leaves, we did our branch. Let's move on to the letters real quick. I can't believe it's been 2 hours, but I spent way too much talking about the scammer that's on here and being sidetracked by that, but it's frustrating. And I apologize that I can't do anything about it right now. Okay, that petal's bother me, so. All right, so letters. Warm white. I'm going to get some clean warm white since I went into the center of my paint. I'm using my number 2 rigger. Okay, Faux Squirrel number 2 rigger. I have a little moisture in my brush, and I'm going to pull down. And I have to give, I finished this in warm white, and then I texted a picture to Tracy Moreau, and I said, okay, it needs something. It needs either some pink along the bottom, or it needs green along the bottom. And she said, ooh, do quinacridone magenta. So that's what I did, and then some. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that brush and start at the top. Now, this is kind of key too when you're doing letters, and surprisingly enough, I don't have a stencil. I love a stencil because it puts a word on quicker, but I just hand drew this out and then transferred it on when I did my pattern. So when you're starting the letter, you don't want to start right at the edge, because what's going to happen is your brush is going to push that paint beyond the letter. Start in the center. Start in the center and push your brush out. You can come back to the edge and fill it in. And I'm sitting, which is awkward. I might need to stand because I feel like my brush is back, and you want your brush to be a little bit more up. Thank you so much, Diane. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Denise. I appreciate that. Okay. So again, start in the center, back up to that. And fill it in. Now I did do 2 layers on my, well, that was a lot of paint. I did 2 layers on my letters, letting it dry in between. I'm just going to add a little bit more paint and try and do it just one time for time's sake. But if yours are too transparent, you can always go back over them a second time. Start in the center, go out to the edge. And another reason why it's a good idea not to have too much paint on your brush, because your letters or even your object, whatever you're painting, is going to be to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But if it does, like I showed you how to take that background back, you can also do the same thing with the letters. Okay. Just kind of let that loose grip. If you've got a death grip on that brush, it's going to show as you paint. Oops, too much water. It's going to show as you paint those letters in. It's going to just be a little too stiff. So I kind of just go with the flow of the letter, come back to little areas that might seem awkward at first, to pull that brush. And it's much easier to pull this rigger brush than it is to push it, okay? Pulling it is going to help you fill in that area. You can see where it is you're painting. If I push it this way, I can't see where my hand is. I mean, well, I can't see where my brush is. My hand's in the way. Come right back out to the edge. And same thing like on the center of the flowers. If you get done with your letters and you took too much of the shading away, or you want to intensify that, it's always my thing at the very end of any painting is to come back and intensify my shadows and my highlights. Too much paint there. So on these areas where you need to be a little bit softer with your pressure, just lift up. And then you can push out with a little bit of pressure on that brush. To fill in that space. And on the original, I'll show you when I get done with this and turn it back over. But I love the way like one leaf goes in and one leaf comes over. Again, it ties that word into your piece instead of it just looking like it's on top. And why am I outlining that letter? I'm going to go right in the center and out to the edge. Thank you, Sandra. Glad you're here. Again, if your brush starts to split it all, you need a little bit more moisture, a little bit more paint, might need a touch more water. And like I said, this is going to be a little on the thin side. It really does need a second layer, but I'm going to not put you guys through the agony of watching me letter a second time. I will show you how to shade that color along the bottom. But when you paint yours, feel free to add a second layer if needed on the word. And I'm holding my breath. If y'all are holding your breath and you're painting, not a good idea. Make sure you're breathing. Okay. So I'm going to leave, like I said, that at one layer, even though it looks like a hot mess. I want to show you how to get this shading on. Obviously stuck my finger in there. So I wanted to, that just was too plain for me. So what I'm going to do along the bottom is float some of that quinacridone magenta. And then when I did that on the original, it was a little too in-your-face bright. And I'll show you that when we do this. Okay, so I'm using the 1/4 inch angle. Get that a little wet. I'm going to get the tiniest touch of quinacridone magenta on the toe of my brush. Let me zoom in just a touch. Okay. And I'm going to float that along the bottom of the letters. Now, because this is a very thin application of paint, I'm going to beef that up just a little because I'm not seeing it on camera that well. It doesn't matter if you go past the letter, okay? So I'm just doing a small little wash of that color, and then you can soften it up. This would also be a great place for you to use that mop brush if you need to soften out where it ends, okay? But I'm just doing that bottom little section of the letters. And see, I didn't come up here. I just, that bottom little section of the letters. And again, quinacridone magenta in the media line, or you can use berry cobbler, alizarin crimson, royal fuchsia. Okay. And again, yes, this is recorded and available on my page today, as are all of my Facebook Lives. They're also available on my YouTube channel. Okay, So there is the quinacridone magenta. Okay, you can leave it at that if you want to. Welcome back, Helen. Okay, and so I'm just gonna give that a little bit of a dry. And when I finished that, I liked it, but one of my biggest tips when you're painting is hold it back and look at it. Step away from it. If it's too in your face, bright, ooh, need to tone that down. Asphaltum is a great color. So I took a little asphaltum on the toe of my brush. And washed it right over that. Okay, see how it tones it down a notch? And I think just adds a really pretty color. And I don't care about the background. I have this color in my background. So I'm just going right over that, and you can see how I'm not being careful about not going into the background. Just past the letter. And I'm doing a soft little, almost like a tiny little U, little stroke, instead of pulling just the flat of the brush. It's a little bit of a tap with that color. Michelle, thank you very much for your sweet comment. That's what I love about my membership group too, is I have a little bit more intentional time creating with my group. And I will share more information with you guys in the next couple of weeks, especially since the membership opens the end of the month. Finally, I started it in October and intended to open it in February, and you know, things are just crazy. So don't you love how that asphaltum tones that down? Love, love, love. Okay, but again, you can leave it with the quinacridone magenta to start with. I'm going to zoom out, show you the finished one here. Okay, but I love the way that asphaltum tones it down. You can come back in again and intensify your shading underneath the letters if need be. But I want to show you what I did around the edge on this one, which is totally different than what I did. Did I do it? Yeah, on my nest project, I took asphaltum or raw umber around the edge. And on this one, I wanted to give it a frosted look. So you know how you can, on a photo editing app, you can get a frosted look around the edge of your photo. So I wanted to do that. Even though this isn't finished, I'm going to go ahead and show you. So I'm going to use a baby wipe. If you've not seen me do this technique, I saw we had several newbies here, so welcome. And this is exactly how you can easily do the outside edge. Baby wipe right around your finger. I'm going to pick up on the tip of my finger some warm white. So I'm going to pick up some warm white, and I want to run it back and forth and work that in, almost like I was loading an angle brush. Okay. Work it back and forth. Now, you want your wrist on the inside of your project. If you're out here, it's going to leave a very defined, harsh line. So you want to run that right along the inside edge of your piece. You can round those corners off a little bit if you want to. Turn your piece so that you keep your wrist on the inside of your project. Pick up more paint as you need. Sometimes the wood will also tear up your baby wipe a little, so you just move it to a clean spot if you need to. Right over the leaves and everything that are there. Okay, and that just gives it a very soft little frosted look to your piece. Okay, which is our finished one right here. And I took a little bit of that off right there, so I'm going to add some of that back in. Just like that. And notice how the things on the edges, leaves and everything, I just went right over them. Of course, that just kind of softens it and brings your eye right into that design. All right. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how I painted my dogwood welcome sign. Again, thank you so much, you guys, for being here and for watching. I'll go through all the comments and make sure that I answer any questions you might have had, and of course block our troller that we had today. Thank you for all those that reported him or her, whoever it is, the mean person that was here. And you guys, again, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for being here. I hope you pick up those brushes, get out that paint, and do something creative this week, okay? Thank you guys. Don't forget to comment, like, and share, and I will do the drawing on the last Sunday of the month for the door prizes, for the giveaways that I have. So you guys have a great Sunday. Thanks for being here. Bye.